Welcome to May's version of Designed for Organization. My name is Tia Hunsberger and I am a senior designer at Closet Factory, Colorado. I come on once a month with my friend Kelly with Organized by Kelly, and we talk about some type of organizational subject. I'm super excited to have Kelly join us. She's going to be jumping on here in a minute. And we're going to talk about something a little different than we normally do. Our minds organized and how that helps us keep our space organized. Kelly, welcome. Good morning. Good afternoon, whatever time of day it is, right?
I know. Yeah, where are we now? Yes, it's afternoon. It's afternoon. It's great to see you. It's been a while.
I know it has been a while. It is good to see you. So I'm super excited for us to have this conversation. You know, Kelly and I are friends. We talk occasionally outside of these live calls, and we both have had kind of busy, crazy, stressful lives lately. And I had this idea the other day to talk about how keeping our thoughts, our worries, our brains clear, and how that can help us keep our space clear. So I'm excited to jump in. Kelly, any thoughts before we get started?
Oh, you know me, I'm full of the thoughts all the time. But no, I love this topic because I think that like the whole idea, the whole point of having a clear space at home is so that you can enjoy it and you feel good in it. And so if it's not clear and you can't enjoy it, that's one thing. But as with anything in life, it's our mindset and where we are mentally that really impacts the space or anything else. And so, yes, using our thoughts and having some tools and strategies to kind of get a hold of those can really impact the space and everything else. So, yeah, I think it's a great topic.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. So let's jump right in. So oftentimes, Kelly, we're talking about a specific space in our home and creating, I can help people build out a space so everything has a home, and then you can help them find the best way for their things to go in that space. So let's talk a little bit about kind of how we keep our thoughts, our brains, our mindset kind of in a clear space. So what do you think the first step is? As I don't know about you, but lately there's just been a lot going on in my world. I have these overwhelmed moments and I have a hard time keeping all the thoughts and ideas. And mind you, sometimes they're great thoughts and great ideas, but having a hard time keeping them all kind of clear and straight. What's kind of your number one tip to keep those thoughts from overwhelming us?
So I know that for a lot of us, we've gone digital in so many ways. And for some people, they can keep their thoughts straight and manage digital things, and that's all great. I'm not one of those people. And so, it's sometimes I laugh and I tell people all the time, like, yes, I'm an organizer, but I don't visualize well. I think you and I have talked about this before. So you can walk into a space and visualize, oh, this is how everything should come together, and this would be a home for this, etc. And you can design it and make it. I don't do that well. I need to have my hands on it. And if it's kinesthetic, if I can touch it and move it and put it in the place and then see it and manipulate things that way, I can do great things. But if it all just has to be in my mind or in my computer, I swim. I get totally lost in all of it and it gets a little overwhelming. So for me, paper and pencil, that is the magic trick.
This is my pad, my ongoing list right now.
Right? And I know like we're trying to cut down on using paper and we're trying to do all those types of things, but there are situations in which you just need to have it. I don't know why this light never stays on, but anyway, I'll deal with that later. Yeah, whatever. So yeah, I I know we've talked before about, let me turn a different light on. I know we've talked before about the space model that we use in organizing houses. And just for a reminder, or for someone that hasn't seen that before, it's an acronym. And so first you start by clearing a space. Like if you have so much clutter that you have nowhere to go with it, that's the first problem, right? So space starts with clearing a space. And then we follow through the acronym. And so you're going to sort, then purge, assign a home, containerize, equalize. So we've got this cute little, okay, we're going to pull everything out in this space and sort it and categorize it. And then we're going to decide, okay, we're purging or editing, taking away these things, discard, donate, whatever you want to call it. The P works nicely for the acronym, right?
Yes.
And then you're going to figure out, okay, let's space plan. Where should everything go? Assign the home. And then what containers are you going to use for those items? And then label, etc., and set up triggers for when it needs to be, start the process over or reset, right?
Right.
So using that same acronym, I use it to organize. Can you not hear me?
No, I can hear you well.
Oh, okay.
That was a thinking thought, like.
Oh. So I use the same one, but I change up the letters a little bit, and I'm sure there could be a different way and a better way to do the same thing. But it kind of follows the same idea, because when I am swimming in all of these thoughts, I'm like, okay, stop. You got to make space, time for yourself, whatever you want to call it. But that's the same idea, to make a space, and then you have to take it all out. And so brainstorm, brain dump, whatever you want to call it, I just have to sit down, paper to pen, and just get it all out on paper. And you're not using that time, just like when you're organizing a space, you're not using that time to make all of the decisions. You're not deciding, you know, if you go through each item and try to make your decision as you go, that's how you spiral and you get stuck.
Right.
Same thing here. You just got to take all of the ideas, get them on the paper. Then you prioritize them. So the P becomes prioritizing. Okay. And in a way, you're going to purge some of them, right? We all know, like, the, it's left my head right now, but the T chart, like urgent, not urgent, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
I get lost in that because I trip myself up on, well, is it urgent or is it, you know, so that doesn't work for me, but whatever works for you. You got to prioritize out all these things that are now on the paper. And then you got to take action on something. So that becomes the A. So sort and categorize, get it all out there, prioritize it, then you got to take an action. Because sometimes when we're swimming in all of these to-dos and so much going on, it can be paralyzing. And we hear it from clients all the time. And you see, like, funny stories and reels from people. And I've seen it going around lately, and they're like, yeah, I have so much to do that I decided to do nothing. Because it's just, where do you start? Yeah. Sometimes you can waste more time prioritizing and deciding than actually just taking an action and doing the thing. So that's the A, action. Okay. And then the C is celebrate. Because that's I think, my favorite. Right? We don't do it enough. And so I'm terrible about it. And we just get so wrapped up in everything that we're trying to accomplish and do and be productive, you know. But hey, like, look at it at the end of the day. Wow, I got these things done. There might be more to do, but, you know, celebrate. Like, yeah, it's progress. It's something. The action is happening.
Sometimes my celebration is just simply that I got 3 things checked off the to-do list.
Right? I'm the same way, because sometimes I like to just write it down so that I can cross it off. Right. I've even written things down after I finished them just to get the endorphin of checking them off my list. But it's a little mini celebration, right? That's a way to say, you did it. You did the thing. Move on.
Yeah, for sure. We deserve to be proud of those things.
Definitely. No matter how great or small, they're all things. And then the last one for me is evaluate. So you can relook at the list. And one time, a long time ago, I heard this thing about when you make a list of things to do or add, you also have to make your stop doing list. And sometimes through the course of a day or a project or something else, the priorities are going to shift. So I think that's where I get stuck when I'm trying to say, like, you know, which little box everything goes into. I find it better to just have 3 for the day. And if I get more, great, and break them down small enough. If I get more, great. If I don't, that's okay. But you got to reevaluate. You got to evaluate at the end and go, okay, now what's the priority?
Right.
Because it's just going to keep shifting. So that's where I start when it gets overwhelming.
I love that. And I love how the thoughts relate so much to our space, right? It's the same type of process. We have to go. We gotta remove the clutter first. For me, it's often, especially late in the day or in the evening, there's so many things kind of going on. And I, like you, I'm not I can't do everything technical. I do use a few technical resources where I will literally text message myself. If I think of something and I'm out somewhere, I'll voice text myself, don't forget, and I'll put that on the list. And then I'm one where I like to and you and I have talked about this, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but the brain fatigue in the evening gets overwhelming. And so I have to kind of make the dump at night, let it all go. And then I can sit down in the morning and really prioritize. Okay. And my to-do list has 2 columns, a do now and a do later list. And realistically, the top of the do now are the priorities. The bottom of the do now is the things that can happen later today or tomorrow or later this week if they have to. And then the do it later is the things that I keep thinking about but aren't at the top of the priority list yet. So it's not a perfect exact list, but it's kind of these 3 categories of how I can, because if I put the unimportant things at the top of the list, then it overwhelms me. Like, that's not a priority. That can come later. So
Definitely. I find the same thing. One thing I do sometimes is those 3 most important things are bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to like get the ball rolling on some small little things I can celebrate that I crossed off to be ready. The trick for me is not getting caught in all the little things to get the little check off the list to never get to the important big things.
Yes, totally. I think that's like, if we use the analogy of how it relates to our home, if we put, clean the closet or clean the bathroom on the list, or, organize the garage. That's a big one, right? Like, if we put that as one item, that's a really overwhelming one item on the list. But if we break it down into step-by-step pieces, then there's a lot more checks, but it also is much more like consumable, right? We can go in and take those things. And I think if we think about it from a kind of a mindset and how we think about things process, if we, like if I put, buy a house on my list to do tomorrow, that's a really big step. But if I put research what neighborhood I would like to live in, then that's a much more doable task for me to spend an hour or 30 minutes or whatever it might be researching some of the neighborhoods that I'd be interested in. So I think these 2 things relate in such a significant way, but I don't think we always make that correlation.
I think it's so true. And I also heard something recently about, how water will take the shape of whatever container.
Yeah.
And there's I'm out of fancy words today, but I know the concepts, right? But it's this thing about your to-do list and the items on it they will fill the amount of time you give them to fill. And it made me think of like this water, how it will take that shape. And so I've been trying to, on some of those bigger things, because something like researching which neighborhood, girl, I can spend the next year researching which neighborhood and be like the best, most knowledgeable person on every neighborhood that ever existed. But did that really serve the end purpose? And so I've been trying to, for myself, put boundaries on some of these pieces, some time limits, and say, I'm going to do the best I can with X amount of time, call it good, and move on. Because that's my trap. I'm a perfectionist. Some people call themselves recovering perfectionists. I can't go there. I'm probably still in full denial perfectionist. And so just trying to manage that piece out to do those things. And there's a quote that I put on Instagram recently. You might have seen it. And it's from Gretchen Rubin about how doing something well that never needed to be done in the first place is the greatest waste of time.
Right.
And I think that can translate into these to-do lists as well, because they're going to fill the time, and some things just need to be done, but they don't need to be done well necessarily.
Right.
A quote that goes with that one is the idea that if something is worth doing, it's worth doing poorly. And when I first heard that, have you heard that one?
I haven't, no, but I think that's interesting. Yeah.
It's interesting. And when I first heard it, I was like, I don't know about that. You know, like, you're going to do everything well. But the idea was, if you don't have time to like do your full workout, go to the, okay, fine, do it poorly. Take a jog around the block. It's still better. If it was really worth doing so wonderfully, get something in. Brushing your teeth. You don't want to spend the full 3 minutes or whatever brushing your teeth. Just brush them. Do it poorly, but you're still ahead of having not done it at all.
Yes.
So yeah, that idea has just been resonating with me lately. Like, I guess if it is worth doing, maybe it is worth doing poorly. Better than not, right?
Yes. And I think another way to say that without having to say poorly, because none of us want to be bad at something, right?
No.
But I think I always like the term progress, not perfection, right?
Yes.
Like I may not get the perfect workout in today, but I can walk around the block between, I have 10 minutes between phone calls. I can walk around the block, right? Like that's better than nothing. And it's progress, right? So I try to look at things that way, but I think it's really easy to get caught up in the perfection of it and the overthinking. And I think there's so many things, and I know in my world, but I know in a lot of other people's worlds, that I put way too much thought in. I saw a post on social media a couple of weeks ago, and this woman said, just do the thing. And that's kind of like doing it poorly, right? Like, just do it. Like, don't overthink it. Don't wait for it to be perfect. Don't wait for, it all to be in the perfect scenario at the perfect timing, because it's probably never going to happen, right?
Right.
So if we wait too long, we've missed a lot of, great opportunities to, and maybe we're going to do it poorly 5 times, but doing it poorly 5 times is better than it never getting done, right?
It absolutely is. I couldn't agree more. I was gonna ask you about any graphic organizers, or like, you mentioned that you have your columns that you use. Do you have any other ways that you, when you are stressed out or overwhelmed, I mean, we're talking to-do lists, but there's other things too, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any other tips or tricks that you use putting pencil to paper?
Yeah, and so I've actually started this. I got the. I'll show you another little snip at my desk here. I got these new colorful notebooks,
Okay.
and I get a little overwhelmed with like 20 pages in my notebook with notes on different categories and different things. And this is obviously not something I'm going to carry a bunch of notebooks around with me, but they sit on my desk. And I'm experimenting with this option of kind of compartmentalizing the thoughts and the projects into different categories. So if I can set an hour aside to, you know, work on Closet Factory work today, but then maybe tomorrow I have an hour to work on, you know, my fitness goals for the year or whatever that is. So I can kind of compartmentalize things in different places. So I'm experimenting with that to see how that works. I like the idea of having these kind of separate categories. I will say the one technology piece that has worked really well for us is we do have Alexa in our kitchen. And Alexa's grocery shopping list is a lifesaver because my husband and I can both access it from our phones, and in the kitchen, we'll just say, Alexa, add yogurt to the shopping list or whatever it is. And that is a huge lifesaver for me because I was always someone that hand wrote out the lists.
Right.
Would take that to the store with me. And now, as long as my phone hasn't died for the day, I can take the electronic shopping list with me to the store, and I'm not having to say, honey, what do you need at the store? It's his responsibility. If you get it on the list, I'm going to buy it, but you got to get it on the list. And the same way, and a week where my husband will do grocery shopping, I'll just say, get whatever's on the list. And, you know, we're learning to navigate it, right? Like sometimes one of us will put something on the list and the other one doesn't understand what it is that we're asking for.
Right.
So we're learning how to. The other day he put something and I was like, we buy like 3 different versions of this. Like I'll use chips for an example. If you put chips on the list, I don't know which kind of chips you want. So you got to give me some more detail. But, you know, we're learning to navigate it, right? And it's something new, and it's something, I say new, we've had it for a while, but we're learning how to perfect using that system. So that's one electronic form that we have incorporated into our lives and our worlds that is working for us. But I have a Closet Factory notebook that I carry around with clients, and it gets some to-do lists. And then this to-do list is kind of it's work related, but it's got a lot of other life and world projects. And here's the thing, right? Like we all have, I think oftentimes when we come up with a project management system, we put it into, like in business, we'll learn a certain way to track our projects for work, right? And I'm sure in with your clients, Keli, you have a format of like what stage they're at and how to track who your team members are that are going to work with them and that, right? But I think sometimes we don't take advantage of those same processes in other areas of our life, right? Like do we use that at home for projects with our family, whether it's a project we're doing or it's a vacation we're going on, or right? Like I think oftentimes these skills that we use in one area can roll over into other parts of our lives as well.
I think they can. I was using Trello a while back, which I love because it's like sticky notes, you know, and you can pull things around and be done with it or whatever. But I noticed in trying to use it like for a business, we can do it, right? Because there's an expectation there, and you know, we've moved on from Trello, but it's an example, right? But then when I tried to use that personally with my family, no, just a disconnect there completely. And I thought, why is this? Because it seems so simple. But I think everyone has a little bit of digital fatigue.
Yeah.
And so unless it's super relevant to each person and it's used consistently, I just don't know if there's, you know, I'm sure there are apps out there that work for lots of families. But for me personally, I found like it just wasn't as effective as a paper and pen or verbal communication to keep those things rolling. So I think it's interesting where at personal, it's one way, and professionally for me, it's another. And I would love to marry the two for my sake, just to keep it all going and straight. But I haven't found that key yet.
Yeah, and I think it's a little different when we're engaging other people, right? Because when you work in a business, the people that work for you kind of have to, if they want to work for you, they have to follow the processes that you set up, right? It's a little different to get your spouse and your children to follow the process, because
Right.
they don't get a paycheck at the end of the month, right? It's so that's a little different. But I think personally, when it's our own project that may or may not involve, that may not involve other people, then it absolutely, like,
Yes.
we get to choose the process. And I don't think we take into consideration, like, when we're doing a personal project, right? Like, I'll use vacation planning for like, there's so many things there's so many steps in planning a vacation. As an analogy, right? It's like a business project, right? And it may or may not involve other people, but I think the steps that we use in planning a business project could be very similar to planning a vacation. And you just have to kind of decide. My brother and I are working on a kind of a personal family related project right now, and we've been trying to, like, take notes and post it in a folder where we can access them and lay out the steps and the plans and the deadlines that we need for this project. And I'm like, okay, we're treating this like a business or an organizational meeting, and it's working for us so far, which has been good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. That's awesome. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
Well, Kelly, we've got just a few more minutes. Any last words, any thoughts you have on the importance, or kind of how to keep our brains and our thoughts clear, and how that then relates to keeping our space clear as well?
One last thought. Always full of thoughts.
Yes, yes.
It's about post-it notes.
Okay.
I find that sometimes I just need to rely on a post-it note. I just, as things are coming in, if it's faster, then I can get it to an app or get it to anywhere. I just revert back to the good old post-it note. And I have seen in clients' homes sometimes they have post-it notes or scratch paper with to-do lists or information or pieces of thoughts all over. And I find that that is really overwhelming, because then they have to even go gather the thoughts to be, it can get overwhelming. And one thing I've been doing for a decade now, I don't even know how long, kind of like your notebook thing, but I have these spiral bound books I get, and they have a super sturdy cover on them, and then they're just lined paper. But I can throw them in a bag, throw them in my purse, throw it in the car. Like, it's not going to get wrinkled or messed up. And these little books, here I am in the process of transitioning from a full one to a new one right now. So I have the full one next to me. But you can see it has post-it notes in it, and it has random everything. But this is my brain on paper. Like, I'm terrified of ever losing one of these, because I even sometimes will just stick a business card in there so that I don't lose it. But I have lots of these dating back, and I never worry about the order. Like, it's not going to go sequential page by page, because sometimes, whatever. So I just fly it open, take down the notes from the call, whatever it is. But then I never wonder, where's that piece of paper? Where's that thought? Where's that this or that? It is all in one very random place. Should someone find it, they would say, what is happening here?
This is my similar Closet Factory book.
Okay.
And it's got all my client notes in it. And it's great because I used to like individually create like a folder kind of you know, but I found that things got disconnected and not everything always ended up in the place. And so then sometimes I have to search through a couple books. Like a client called me the other day and asked me a question about a project from months ago, and I had to go through a couple of my past books to find that information, but it's there. It's
right.
There. Have to go through it. The one thing I was going to say, and I don't have any in this book, but one thing that I do related to this book and the sticky notes is I will use them as like when I meet with a client, I'll put a sticky note on their page when I still have something I need to do for them. I'll put it use it like a tab almost. And then I can put notes about that client, but then it's sticking out of the book, reminding me that there's something on that project that is still outstanding that I need to.
Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Awesome. Yeah. Well, this has been totally fun. Just, you know, trying to get our thoughts straight and more tips and tricks to keep it organized because it's a lot.
Yes, it definitely is. Well, if you're watching this live or in the future, if you have a subject that you would love Keli and I to talk about, we'd be happy to get that in our schedule. So put it in the comments or reach out to Keli or I individually, and we will get it in the plan for the future. Guys, we'll be back next month with a new topic and some new thoughts on designed for organization, and we'll see you then.
Awesome. Thank you, Tia.
Bye.
Bye-bye.